The attendee list seems to have leveled off, and we have hit the top of the hour. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Once again, I'm Ken Kibler, Director of Training and Client Business Support for eTruckBiz. We're going to go through the weekly business update, where we've got some of our usual topics, as well as part two, a continuation of last week's subject matter with the negotiation and the MISO acceptance. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A or the chat. Without further ado, I'll turn this over to Jeff Walzak.
Thank you, Mr. Ken. And as always, I need to let you know that eTruckBiz is not endorsed, sponsored, or anything else by FedEx Corporation. eTruckBiz is all about making your business simple so you can make money. Before we get started, we have a special announcement from Becca.
Thank you. So many service providers are frustrated. The frustration is growing due to Package Route announcing that they are sunsetting on January 31st of this year, forcing you into Ground Cloud. We do have a solution for you. We know that drivers are your lifeline. We totally understand anything disrupting their productivity is going to kill your business. We live and breathe driver efficiency, and we want to focus on a solution for you guys because that is our motto. We want to make it simple for you. So this is why we built the all-new Easy Route to simplify complex Network 2.0 routes and tasks, letting drivers be organized so they can effortlessly hit peak productivity. Now, the result is going to be happier drivers, skyrocketing efficiency, and a fatter bottom line. So I don't see why we wouldn't want that, right? I just want to announce too that the first few days that we did launch Easy Route, it was an overwhelming response. So what I think is the best way to go about this is if you want to reach out to me personally, my email address is becca@eTruckBiz.com. What I've been doing right now is setting up a 15-minute phone call as long as you just email me your availability. And then I walk you through the steps, get your account set up, send you tutorial videos, and then book a demo session if needed or wanted more one-on-one guidance. So please feel free to reach out to me, becca@eTruckBiz.com. I can help you get going with all of this. Or if you just want more information on it too. So if you want to save money, please use Easy Route. This is the best and most affordable routing app for FedEx service providers known right now.
That'd be good.
I will do that.
We always want to proceed, and we want to look at what happened to the volume in week 2 of the year. Now, some interesting stuff here. So pickup stops were way up over the trend. This is pickups on the vans, right? You guys know, but if you look at last year at this time where we were versus here, oh my God, it's huge. It's up 400 something percent. Just look at how far above last year's numbers we were. That's a significant move up. That's really good. Packages weren't as strong as the stops, but they were good. So you would think the delivery volume's up there too, and yes, it is. So if you look at last year at this time, stops were below this trend line. We're above it now. That's a move forward. That's good. Same thing happened with packages. Now, this is a interesting thing here, Ken. What do you think happened to productivity before we look at the slide?
Well, I'm cheating because I kind of know, but looking at stops increasing, packages increasing, that should equate to very good productivity.
Yes, sir. It's way better than it was this time last year, but it can be better. So we were up here 115, 113, whatever that was. Okay, we're better than the trend, but there's room for improvement, right?
Absolutely. Look at your Mondays. Volume should have stabilized last week, which we did see. So we got some opportunity this week to push past that 103 and see if we can get to 105.
That would be good. So there's a little news this week. The question is now, those of you that have been around a long time know what this is. Those of you who have been here 4 or 5 years or less may not know what we're talking about here, but there is the volume recession about to end. What does that mean? Well, one of the things this means is if you look at the last 3 quarters of GDP back in Q2 of 25, GDP was up 3.8, 4 point, and then in the third quarter up 4.8. Now the estimate the government has for GDP in the fourth quarter of 25 is 5.1%. We hadn't seen 5.1% or better since, you guys remember Ronald Reagan as president? You remember that, Ken?
I do.
You do?
I was just a youngster then.
You probably weren't following the financial markets at that point.
Nah, I was chasing a hockey puck.
Well, there you go. But anyways, that's pretty good. GDP was higher actually, and they got to almost 8% with Reagan. But that's a pretty good from where we were 3, 4 years ago, 5 years ago to having those kind of numbers. That's big. Somebody came out and said FedEx stock flies higher on hopes the freight recession is about to end. There's a whole bunch of things in this particular article which are interesting. Look at that stock price. 311. This was yesterday, and I didn't check it today, so I don't know where it's at, but 311 up 77 bucks in the last 6 months. Now, who knows what usually leads all markets for that matter? It's the transports. Is that right, Mr. Ken?
Yep, transportation is a huge indicator of the economy.
Sure is. And if this is any indicator, I think that's going to bode well for the economy. But when the economy is good, what does that mean for FedEx folks?
More stops and packages.
Right now, let's say pre-vid, because I think you got to really look at pre-vid. It used to be volume used to slowly and steadily increase. And what that meant was as folks put new trucks and new drivers, you kind of filled in that capacity with more stops and packages, which meant it was easier to run this business because it's a lot easier to run it when things are growing than when they're stagnant or decreasing. There's no question about that. Now, as we hit more in this year and the following year, if the economy does well and you get some growth from that and you start seeing the express volume come over on a network 2.0 integration, you need to start thinking about that, right? I'm not saying go put a bunch of trucks on at this point, but start thinking about if the volume grows on you for a while, what's that going to mean? We just saw 103 stops per dispatch. Is that because we're doing a real good job of planning and doing a real good job of controlling our resources and capacity? Or is that because there just happens to be some more stops and packages on the trucks? I don't know. I hope it's because we're controlling what's going on. Okay. Now, last week we outlined what we'll call the Meso problem. This week we want to try to see what we can do about it, right? Miss Carrie, tell us about what's going on here.
Sure. Last week, as Jeff said, we discussed how taking a Meso offer contributes to inaccurate cost assumptions, and those are being used in creating new offers. We also discussed how this is happening year after year, and when that does happen, it can result in severely distorting these assumptions. What is the effect of that? The accurate cost assumptions leads to MISO offers that unnecessarily and dangerously compress the service provider margins. I don't know how many times a day I hear I'm not making money, or these offers are worse than last year, costs are higher, but I'm not being offered any more money in my contract. So all of these things could contribute to the reason why your bottom line is being squeezed. Let's take a look at this. When the easy becomes expensive. So the MISO offer, we are tempted to take those not only because it is easy, but because maybe your negotiator is swaying you to take one, telling you things like you're not going to get any more money even if you negotiate, or you have a time constraint, so you want to take a MISO offer to make it easy, or even the upfront money might be enticing. There's pressure when making this decision. They want you to quickly and easily handle the negotiation process. or to attempt to negotiate with a Fortune 50 company can be intimidating. The temptation of easy solutions may end up being more expensive to you in the long run. So that MISO temptation is a solution that feels efficient, it creates minimal conflict and it provides a fast resolution. But the reality of taking a MISO is that careful analysis is required for the standard negotiation or optimized 2.0 contracts, which even gets into a more complicated decision. What feels like the easiest is rarely the most profitable for service providers or the most cost-effective for FedEx. So it is a two-way street. Not only is taking a MISO offer detrimental to the CSA or the contractor, it can be detrimental to FedEx also, and that is not being realized as far as I can tell. We'd like to emphasize that the need to resist this temptation of easy solutions and instead focus on thorough analysis to identify the most beneficial long-term negotiation solution for both parties. If you're not analyzing the data, then it's not going to be an effective resolution. You're not going to be able to maximize that revenue potential like we can with all the data that we have and the experience in doing negotiations. So what we suggest is you play the hand that you're dealt strategically. You have to know your data, as I just said. Every expense line item, whether it is within what the norm should be or if it's outside of that. You may have a good reason why your spend some of your other areas of the country when FedEx presents a norm or what an average is that wages should be, and you're way above that. There may be a good reason, and you may have to prove that. You can track your expenses, track them in real time, your operational costs, your strategy. You have to negotiate from a position of knowledge. You can't just throw an offer out there that's ridiculous, hundreds of thousands of dollars above what the offers are, and expect FedEx to accept it. And your reasoning being, I need more money. That's not going to cut it. So it's easy to look at the sifting landscape and place blame on external factors. But those of you who have been involved in other businesses know that you have to play the cards you're dealt. You have to work with the situation that you have rather than get caught up in external frustrations. So 3 points here. You know your data, you have a deep understanding of every expense, you track your expenses, and you develop a strategy. Successful contractors focus on what they can control, not external frustration. That's important to understand. So the operational expense gap. What is the reality of Network 2.0 costs? Some of you have not transitioned to the 2.0 model yet, but you will be eventually. This adds another layer of complexity onto the negotiation process. FedEx is still working through how they want to structure and pay for time-definite deliveries, pickups, and things like that. We've seen contracts change over the last 12 months. This is still being worked out. We see the landscape shifting from a standard settlement engineering assumption used to generate offers, and they may be fundamentally disconnected from ground level reality because of the MISO program. It may be not appropriate anymore when we're talking about 2.0 transition contracts. The service provider logistics landscape is changing, driven by the 2.0 service standards. The standard cost assumptions used to generate offers are maybe no longer in line with operational reality on the ground. Has FedEx adapted these MISO offers to these changes? Network 2.0 has introduced significant complexity to the logistics operations. There are new tasks that need to be executed that never existed before, or they exist enough quantity to be a significant in the ground only world. So there's a lot of things here that sway us from this MISO offer template or, choosing a MISO offer and expecting that to be beneficial for your company. Network 2.0 is where density meets the hidden costs, all right? So time definite deliveries, there's tight windows that eliminate route flexibility. Drivers bypass closer stops to meet the time definite deadlines, and this increases miles. Same day on-call pickups, break driver rhythm and optimal routing, dramatically reduce dispatch productivity. So what's the bottom line? Non-revenue producing miles exceed revenue gains provided by increased stop density. One thing is outweighing the other. Even though you're getting increased density by increasing the miles, there goes the revenue gains that you would have otherwise saw. Higher per stop and per dispatch costs can easily and quickly deteriorate current operating margins. We have to keep that in mind too. And again, I don't think that some of these MISO offers are taking any of these points into consideration, or at least they're not revealing that to us or to the contractors.
Yes, ma'am. This is very important what Carrie's saying here. FedEx thinks you're getting more stops and packages, so everything's fine. Your settlement should be going up and everything should be just fine. But the reality is you're getting more stops and packages, and if you could do them in a very efficient way, what they call straight line deliver them, you could increase your density, reduce your cost per stop, everything would be great. But the problem is dealing with all the different service levels and things. We'll just call them things for now. There's a whole bunch of things you're going to have to do when you get into 2.0 that you don't do now. You're going to have to break off from a good flow to get a time definite stop accomplished. The logistics of the operation are changing. And so far, we haven't seen the settlement model change to match the operational change, right?
Correct.
Carrie's going to tell us what we can do about this.
So everyone wants FedEx to fix this. I need more money. But smart service providers know they must take their own action to control what they can control. The strategic negotiation path. Positive results require preparation and stepping beyond automated options. Master your expense structure. You have to keep track of your expenses by category so you know where you are lacking in your efficiency. Granular, up-to-date understanding, no estimates. Tools like Budget IQ that eTruckBiz can provide for you, visualize real-time financial health and standardize budget. So we give you a budget. We also incorporate your actual expenses into this and see where you need help. Leverage our experience, eTruckBiz's consultation services to help you with this journey. This is where you as a service provider can do better in a situation. There is control that you can initiate to help this, all right? And this also goes towards your negotiation path. So the first step is you master that expense structure, you use tools like Budget IQ, you have a real-time understanding of your financial health, all right? Don't go it alone. Let us help you. We are very experienced in this area. You have to embrace the traditional negotiation process, all right? Do not accept one of those MESOs. Go into a back and forth negotiation. We can help you with that. I've negotiated thousands of contracts. I've negotiated many 2.0 contracts and even renewals. So we understand what is lacking here. We know what needs to be done. We help you get there. The key is to get last mile engineering to thoroughly examine the actual market costs in your area rather than rely on these estimates that the MESO offers project. Now this is interesting. A lot of contractors say, we don't want to rock the boat or we don't want to ruffle any feathers. They think that going into a traditional negotiation will promote friction. All right. So that's not true. Believe me, that is not true. The only friction it may cause is more work for the negotiator, because now they have to go into a traditional negotiation, which requires more work and effort on their part. That's part of their job description. We're here for you. We have the data needed to do a successful traditional negotiation. We have the experience that will benefit you. We have the cost and negotiation analysis models that you can use to control what you can control. That is the most important takeaway. And is the payoff real? The FedEx negotiators will tell you you're not going to get any more in the bottom line, but it's sometimes just rearranging the elements of the contract are going to get you a higher revenue. What this also does is it benefits FedEx. It reduces contractor turnover. It strengthens the FedEx brand. It preserves profit margins. So it's a mutual benefit. You have to work together. FedEx wants you to be successful. You want to be successful. So it is a give and take, but you're working towards the same goal.
Right. Well, so we can tell you that we know last 6 months, FedEx is concerned about the contractor turnover number. In any business, there's an acceptable amount of turnover. You got to take your poor performers and replace them with better performers. But at some point, when you turn over too many folks, it becomes a problem. In FedEx's case, they worry about contractor turnover damaging the brand. Because Ken, what happens when you turn over a contractor?
Normally, you're going to end up having to bring in contingency. You're going to have to renegotiate a contract. So you're going to tie up time with first mile or last mile engineering, a negotiator, the stations. You got to find a way to cover it. Most of the time, they're going to pay contingency, which is going to cost them their normal stop rate plus $5, $7, $8, $9. So there is a cost for FedEx with turnover.
They'll accept a level of it. That's fine. But when it gets to be too much, then they start to pay attention, right?
Absolutely. Positive upgrade's a good thing, but when there's too much of it, it's no longer positive.
If the Meso program is damaging settlement structure or settlement charges to the point where it's causing turnover, then there will be some changes. And I know a lot of you out there, they're not going to change anything. They don't care. Well, business-wise, they eventually will. And it could be getting real close to that now.
Knowing your numbers is absolutely important. Knowing your expenses is absolutely important. And breaking it down on a per stop basis, because that is what really changes Network 2.0. You might be taking in more revenue, but if it's costing you more to run it, that extra revenue is not helping you. Your margins are deteriorating and in some cases can be eliminated. Knowing those costs. FedEx knows what they are offering is insufficient regardless of 2.0 or not. In some cases, that might be the case, and that's something that you've got to be able to prove, showing what your labor cost is, showing what you're spending on maintenance, what you're spending on fuel. And if it doesn't, most cases, the biggest one is labor. They may have a different, what they feel you need to pay for an hourly wage or a daily wage for your drivers than what you're actually paying. So we've had customers justify that increased labor rate just because FedEx had their assumptions off in that area. But they have what they believe it to be right. They're not going to say it's insufficient. They're going to offer you what they believe it to be right. And then it's up to you to show them why what they're offering is insufficient. Would you agree with that, Carrie?
Yes, absolutely. And there are a lot of areas that can do that pretty easy. You know, all you have to do is print off what some job areas in the same type of industry in your area and what people are being offered for those jobs. And if it's significantly higher than what FedEx thinks you should be paying your employees, there it is right there. All right. And they do listen to that. I know you think they do not, but they do.
Yeah,
if you can prove your financial structure, your expenses, and what goes into those expenses in the different areas, the percentages, and compare it to what FedEx thinks the economic financial expenses in your area for those different areas, and yours are significantly higher, you have a good fight on your hands. Throwing it back to engineering is always a good way to go. They may come back and say, we're sticking by our valuation, but they have to listen. If you can prove that their valuation isn't true, what you came up with in your expense structure that you can prove is a lot higher, a lot different, then they have to listen.
Yeah, as Matt has chimed in here, look up your market with MIT's cost of living calculator as a basis for your wages. Absolutely.
There you go.
And this is what Matt used and was able to get a renegotiation approved for his current CSA.
Matt, if I open up your microphone, would you mind telling us what happened in your situation? Where'd it go?
He should be able to talk now.
Did you turn it on?
I think we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So to Ken's point, I've been in this, 18 months now, Ken, something like that. And we're on contract number 4. Carrie's advice is we have not argued emotion. We have argued data, and more data. The MIT cost of living wage calculator is an excellent basis for you. It's hard for FedEx to argue with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. That doesn't mean they believe it, but it is, to Carrie's exact point, open the conversation with them so that they will have to bring their data to the table, because normally they don't ever provide you with their data. And what that's going to give you is what does it cost for a single person, no children, to live above the poverty wage, at poverty level in your town? It'll give you poverty wage and everything else. For us in Huntsville, I'll just give you guys numbers. The prevailing wage for a starting driver in Huntsville was somewhere in that $18.50, $19 an hour range. Well, it's $21.82 on the MIT living wage calculator. When we presented that data to FedEx, I ended up on a phone call with guys in Pittsburgh, and they were like, why are you guys not paying in that range? And we're like, we can't afford it. And then again, as Carrie's point, what it then triggered was real conversation, not just this argument back and forth over, I'm not making enough money. We were having a conversation about wages and why we thought the wage was off, and those. So that, I guess I'm just trying to put sort of real world example to Carrie's, what she's saying is that you have to get to that point with them where you're not arguing, I'm losing money. No, let's have a real conversation about wages, why we think wages are off. And then they'll tweak their model. And then they came back in our first negotiation, we kind of got pennies, but we
A little
moved.
bit.
But
Yeah.
it was the second one where we finally got them to move.
Right. And that was a renegotiation. You filed for a renegotiation. So that triggered more interest on FedEx's end to figure out why you needed a renegotiation.
And provided the supporting documentation, because believe me, FedEx is not going to go looking for supporting documentation for your argument. You have to provide it.
Right.
100%. There is an argument that you'll hear among contractors. They'll say the only way you can get FedEx to do anything is you got to fail, and then they'll start throwing more money at you. I have found that I have been much more successful by continuing to try to operate at the highest level of service we can provide. Obviously, we can't go broke, but we're trying to do the best we can. We've been a little more successful in that approach, and that was what Carrie suggested to us is, hey, we're going to be a lot more successful if you're not dropping the ball every day. So that has proven to be true.
The point of the last couple of weeks here has been, what would have happened if you would have taken a Meso?
Well, for me, Jeff, it was the previous owner of my organization taking Mesos for the last 8 years that got us in such bad shape.
That's exactly what I wanted to
Right.
say. So that's the point here. If we just take a Meso, now sometimes, and let Carrie figure it out for you, sometimes a Meso makes sense. But so what they're doing then is they're just using, they don't have to look up anything else. Hey, this guy took a Meso, rock and roll, on to the next one, right? The cost assumption we use to generate the Mesos must be right because they took them. And if you take
Right.
it, and then now you got to try to make that work and then want to blame FedEx for it. Now we can argue about, are their Mesos any good? And okay, that's fine. But taking a Meso and then saying, it's their fault.
You're
This is
reaffirming their incorrectness.
right. That's exactly what's going on. And you're going to say, well, they'll still not move. Well, if you think like that, then there's Matt didn't. Matt got some data together and we went after him.
I mean, Jeff, the bottom line was it's my business, my livelihood, my income. For lack of a better term, you've got to go advocate for your business constantly. And you can do it. I think Carrie's point earlier, there's so many folks in this business that believe that if you push back on them, that they'll put a bullet in you. And if you push back on them in the wrong way, that they will put a bullet in you, right? But if you push back on them with data, right? At some point, I'm reading somebody in the chat and they're saying all kinds of stuff. At some point, I can't tell you that they're going to move. I think Carrie's point is if you have data, at some point, the data you provide will finally break through for a tangible conversation about data. That's where you have to
Right.
get to if you're ever going to have a chance of getting them to move anywhere, because they're not going to have that conversation without true data. You're going to have to bring your data to the table to get them to sit down and have a conversation.
So if somebody asks you, okay, Mr. Contractor, so what is your cost per stop? This is a business and you have to track and know what things cost you on a per unit basis, per stop, per package, what's your yield, what's your daily dispatch yield. This is a business, folks. This isn't a job.
We do have a comment that says nobody will do this job for $16 to $18 an hour. Exactly so.
True.
So we need to prove that, do we need to pay $22 an hour, $23 or $24 an hour? That's what you have to show with your data. So, okay, and like I said, does never emotional. It's always it's business. It definitely is business. Numbers are not emotional. You get emotional about your business, but if you're presenting factual numbers, the odds are on your side that you can at least get them to come to the table to talk. And it says most of us supply data to negotiators. This is conversation that, quite frankly, you want to have it leading up to the negotiation with your station management, with SPS. SPS can be a driving force. They don't determine it, but SPS can fight your case with final mile. Okay. Says, unique characteristics, form, waste of time. What do you do with that? Can you quantify what those unique characteristics are costing your business on a daily, weekly, and yearly basis? Just to list I've got these 5 stops that take an extra half hour. Okay, well, if these 5 stops cost you a half hour each, what do those 5 stops cost you? If I'm paying $22 an hour, each one of those 5 stops now costs me $11. So I've got $55 extra in labor that it's costing me.
Hey, Ken, I'm going to ask a question here. So, Carrie, you do hundreds, if not more than 1,000, 1,500 or more negotiations a year. Is that right? How many contractors start the negotiation process with a full set of cost data?
Not too many, if any.
Right.
That is a big downfall. And, I want to elaborate on that unique characteristics. There's 2 forms that FedEx looks at, unique characteristics, and the other is the financial health or financial data form. And I'm telling you, it is important that you fill those out and submit them before your negotiation. FedEx is making some economic adjustments to contracts, and it looks like they are contracts that have straight trucks and bulk stops in them. So just so you know, things are being done to help those contracts.
If the customer is requesting that they load your truck and their packages are loaded on skids and they want to load skids onto your truck, FedEx needs to make that accommodation. Otherwise, you'd say, please, FedEx, you go tell this customer that we're not going to service the customer the way they want. We're not going to pick up on skids. Because guess what? UPS will pick that thing up on a straight truck.
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, we don't want to fight you guys. We're on your side. We're just trying to tell you. You have to have a real good, firm grasp of your expenses and cost structure.
Straight trucks have been a battle, and probably the biggest battle that contractors have fought year after year. And it's frustrating for Carrie, it's frustrating for me, it's frustrating for Jeff, simply because we know what they cost. We know they're a necessary evil. And we also know that FedEx makes a lot of money on those things. I had several of them when I was running the Nashville local, and the average weight on those packages going back to Ingram Books were 30 pounds. That truck was a cash register, coming in. And that was before the pre-model. We were making a lot of money on that. Now they've made it less profitable for contractors. And if the customer is requiring you to have a straight truck, FedEx needs to compensate you accordingly. Will they compensate you enough? Probably not, but anything's going to help. We do appreciate the comment that we are fighting for you guys, and FedEx does act clueless at times. Matt Schmidt was incredibly frustrated probably for the first 5 months. Is he still singing and dancing with the settlement increase he got? He might be singing, but I don't think he's dancing yet. It took a battle, and it took multiple layers of conversations between SPS, with engineering, with the district staff. It took every bit of 5 months. Am I correct, Matt?
Yeah, to Jeff's point, I mean, we had to sit down and we argued over decimal points down to cost stops. They don't make it easy, but they're running a business too. They're trying to make that stock price go up. They had 21% increase on earnings per share, right? Well, they didn't do that by happenstance.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they report to shareholders. So, and some of them are activist shareholders. So it makes a difference. We don't want you guys frustrated. We're here to help you, to fight for you, to give you tips. Budget IQ is designed so you know what your cost per stop is, not last month, not last week, but yesterday. If I did not hit my cost per stop yesterday, I can make adjustments today. And when I make those adjustments today, that's going to affect my bank account at the end of the week. So we really appreciate the interaction. We will be back here next week as well. Jeff, Carrie, anything else to add?
No, sir.
Excellent. We understand your frustration. Let's work through it together. As Carrie stressed, just do not accept a MISO without having all the facts first, because all you're doing is, in some cases, confirming their mistakes. We'll be back here next Tuesday, same time. If we don't talk to you before then, please have a safe and profitable week. Thank you very much.